Garage, and today we're doing another video on the Sweetheart Roadster. Today we're working on the chassis again. In the last video I kind of showed you the last couple repairs we did up front on the frame rails, and while all the repairs haven't been done, pretty much all the ones that are important have been done. There's some stuff back here that I didn't touch yet because more than likely it's getting cut off, so I'm not wasting my time repairing something we're going to cut off. So today we're going to try and get the perimeter frame tacked in place. So we're going to get the front and rear cross member in place with some bracing we put in so that we can start setting up the suspension and the ride height and stuff like that. So what I'm using is a stock Model A rear cross member. This lets the spring go up a little higher above the frame, kind of like you would do when you Z a frame. But using this, we're not cutting the frame apart, we're just using this to start with. I'm running a spring behind setup, like a 32 would have had originally, but with the Model A rear cross member. So what that does is it makes us put the cross member back behind the center line of the axle, and I'm going to be making my own rear spring hangers, so I can kind of make it whatever I want within reason. So that's pretty nice there. In the front, I'm using a Cornfield Customs. They basically have a plasma table and they cut out these you bend it flat front cross members. So I'm going to bend that up, get it tacked, and we're going to fit that in place and get everything going. So we're going to kind of show you the process to do that today. So let's get started on the rear cross member. Member down. We had to take 1.5 inches about off either side so we could pull it together and get the rear frame measurements to match what it should be. I think it was about 40 inches right here, outside to outside. So we got that done, got it fit in, made up a ghetto plumb bob here, and took some measurements to make sure that it's centered in there. So we're pretty much good. It's all clamped, it's ready to go. We checked our measurements with a piece of wire. If you guys are having problems with a tape measure trying to pull the measurements the same every time, a trick you can do is take some mechanics wire, twist it around some scribes and pull it tight, and then you can cross measure, and if it's loose, you know that it's not right. You make sure it's tight the same on both sides. So now we got this correct, we're going to move up to the front cross member. I'm going to bend that all up, tack it, and do the same thing, and then we should be ready to tack weld this in place. Alright, so we bent up the front cross member. I welded up the seam, which was really nice clean metal, so welded pretty well, blended it in, and we got the cross members clamped in place and measured everything to make sure it was pretty square. What we found in the front cross member, we're chasing it, it's about an 1/8 inch. Every time we tap it, it moves back and forth. So what we're going to do to make our lives easier is I'm going to tack the one side, and then we can kind of pull just a little bit on it to get that 1/8 inch out. Or we may just tap with the hammer to get it to sit where it needs. But try to get those tacked, brace up the frame so we can unclamp it from the table, and then we're ready to start moving on with it. So yeah, you're welcome. So big change here from the last time. We squared everything up, got the cross members in place and welded, and I was excited. So since I had a bunch of help today and guys hanging out, picked the body up, threw it on the frame, and just kind of mocked it up just to see what it looks like, and I'm pretty psyched. So it's just cool to see it on here and how far it's came from being broken into multiple pieces to being sort of looking like something. So next stuff we got to do is I need to work on getting a front axle together with the spring and everything so we can set it up in there and see how far I have to notch the frame for the spring. And we need to cut out the sub rails in the back of the body so that it will sit down over the frame, how the frame steps naturally. We got to cut that out there and put it down so that it sits square, and then we can kind of start working on some of the other pieces and connecting the dots. But big step today. I'm really happy. So that's all we got for this episode. Thanks guys for watching. Catch you later.